Hey, this is Kristen.
Hi, it's Marit.
And this is part 3 of our Trying to Conceive story. We just left off with talking about how we had decided to go and do IVF, but Marit needed to have a cyst removed prior to that. So that was in January 2013. She went and she had that cyst removed.
Right before your birthday.
No, it was actually like 2 days before my birthday.
Part of my recovery was over your birthday.
No, I was really happy that we were doing this, but it was like painful for me because like
it was painful for you.
Well, no, it was really it was really painful for you, but I mean, like, you know, like we always like celebrate each other's birthdays. So like here I was celebrating my birthday. That's true love. I was celebrating my birthday by taking care of you. And she was like,
and
I mean,
that's what you do for your wife.
I'd never seen anyone go through surgery before. I mean, so this was like, this was a first for me too. I didn't really, it was scary for me.
It was scary.
It was. So
anyway, the timing wasn't great, but
it was a long surgery too. It was a long time. It was like
4 hours.
It was like 5 hours. It felt like forever.
Yeah, it was a long surgery. Anyway, so we're skipping through a lot of things, but or glossing over a lot of points. But so I had the surgery. I had what turned out the mass removed, which was thank God turned out to just be completely benign. It was a dermoid cyst, as they thought.
Which was awesome because you don't know until it's removed.
And she even took a small biopsy from my uterus just to make sure that there wasn't anything else going on. Because she's an oncology surgeon. And so she's like, let's just check while we're here, while she's in there, just to make sure there isn't anything else that might be going on that that might be hindering you trying to get pregnant. And that was all negative. So really, it was a success story. It was definitely a trial for us to go through that.
Well,
on top of all the other things we'd been doing.
You glossed over the fact that, like, so she was at Sloan Kettering in New York City for this surgery with, like, top-of-the-line surgeons. And the surgeon, she said to me, her, assistant, or I don't know, he's not an assistant, what do you call him? I don't know.
It's another surgeon on
her team had said, like, we should just take the ovary out. Like, this is going to be, do you forget this? They had contemplated, like, he had said, like, maybe we should just remove the ovary, and she was like, no, we are going to do this.
We're going to preserve
the ovary.
Wait, and they told you that, probably during the surgery. They didn't tell me that.
They told no, I forget. Toward the end of the surgery, maybe.
But that was while I was on the operating table.
You
never told me they said that.
No, you didn't. It was because we were getting updates because the surgeon.
Years later, I'm hearing the truth.
The surgeon was somebody that was acquainted with.
This is what took so long.
Okay,
because the surgery took so long because she knew that we were trying to get pregnant. She knew that. Yes, if they had to remove one of my ovaries, it would not be a dead-end road for us. But she knew that our chances would be better if she could preserve the ovary.
And so thank you.
So she did a really careful surgery.
Thank you, awesome surgeon, who I know your name, but I won't say it because I don't know. I don't want to put all this information out there. Thank you, awesome surgeon, who is awesome.
Call us.
And,
we'll give you her name.
Yeah, no, she is so awesome. Then we went to see our
reproductive endocrinologist again.
In March, because that's when you had gotten the clearance.
It was early March, I think.
And
we showed up again. Here we are, cyst free, ready to go. Yep. So he said, "Okay,
let's go."
And he basically explained the kind of protocol we were going to be on. If we were considering PGD, which we mentioned last time, which was the pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, that was really a whole nother protocol because what he would have done then is put us on slightly different prescriptions of medication so that, when I say we, I really mean me, so that he would basically try to lead us towards having an egg retrieval that would have, like, a lot of eggs. Because ultimately, what he painted the picture of basically that if you're going to do PGD, you want to have a lot more eggs.
A lot more
and
embryos.
A lot more which leads to potentially a lot more embryos because you're going to start basically, like, weeding them out.
Yeah.
And he wanted to give us the best chance possible. again, fast forward through a lot of painful decision making, we decided to not do that.
And we will talk about that in another video if you're watching this.
So he put us on a protocol that was fairly typical, I'm totally blanking on the name now. But it's a very common protocol where basically you start off on birth control.
Yeah. Like all the stuff everybody I'm watching their videos out there is doing right now.
But it's not what everyone is doing. It's just a particular protocol.
Seems
it's
like
a common protocol, but there are multiple protocols.
Gotcha.
So we had to wait for my first period after that. And then I could start on, they decided that I would start on birth control. Not everyone does that, but I did. For a certain number of days.
We only needed 2 vials of sperm, so I know that's come up with other people. We only needed two vials of sperm. That's all that they required to have was sent to them from California Cryobank.
And I bet if we had really pushed, we probably could have said we only want to do 1, but at that point we didn't really care, so we did 2.
Yeah.
So we had those waiting in the wings, and now you threw me off because I was talking about the protocol.
Sorry. Birth control period.
So I had to start the birth control when my period started. Do that for a certain number of days, and then it was time. Then I would have blood work done, and then we knew it was time to do the antagonist protocol. Which I'll explain in a minute. But so then I started on the medication that would basically put me into like a force. So they tried to put my body into like hibernation with the birth control pills, and then a forced like stimulation of eggs to grow and develop in your ovaries, and then you take that medication. I think these were the injections that I had to give myself over. I think it was 7 to 10 days on average. That's
injections. She gave them to herself. She's
around the umbilicus.
she is a trained nurse, and so we felt that it was probably in her best interest to give.
No, I wouldn't let you do it.
Right, to give herself the injections because she gave injections tons of times to other people. I've never given an injection to anyone
giving
before.
It to yourself, but
Chris, you knew how to give an injection.
I wanted to be in control of it and do it myself. So
I was there for the first one, and then it was sort of like, okay, you go do your thing because I'm gonna,
So basically, like every night, I think we did it. It was like every night at like sometime between 8 and 9:30, and that worked for us because I knew I'd be home at that point, even if I had worked late, and.
So she did her shots.
I did my shots. So that was once daily. So birth control, going into the injections of the, I guess it was the follicle stimulating hormone drug, and then, or drugs, and then
Sorry, I've been sick.
And then actually that's an interesting point. I was very sick during that time. I had like a really bad cold. I remember because you have to go back to your doctor's office every few days to get
they check the
blood work and an ultrasound. A transvaginal ultrasound. And I remember I was like sick as a dog, trying not to like get anyone infected in the waiting room. But I was also doing acupuncture. I had been doing acupuncture since I had been doing acupuncture for years, but I had been doing, like, die-hard acupuncture with a fertility-like perspective since January, since before we knew we were going to do IVF. So, sort of leading
January
up to
2012.
And when I say I was doing acupuncture, this is, like...
3 times a week.
At least 3 times a week. And then you go to acupuncture also on certain times, like, if you know you're going to have the egg retrieval... You have a certain...
And I feel like I keep saying this because we have so much to learn, but that could be a whole nother video.
It could be a whole other video.
Because that's a lot of information.
This all was working for me.
Yes.
Oh, and also, Circle and Bloom.
Yeah,
we'll do another video about that.
She used Circle and Bloom meditations.
So Circle and Bloom is a company, actually, interestingly, outside of the area of Massachusetts where we were living at the time. A small company. And they have... It's basically... mind-body relaxation, visualization exercises, which I'm a huge fan of, just to relax and de-stress in general. But there was one program in particular that I purchased to, it was either for IUI or IVF cycles. And especially with my work and everything going on, this was I think this actually saved my life.
So we're going to do another video where we talk about all the things that Mara did to help with fertility, because it was diet, acupuncture, meditation. Okay. We will talk about those in another video.
Anyway, so, but these are all the things that helped us cope.
No, it is, but there's just so much information.
IVF is stressful.
But there's so much information.
I know. Anyway, so we did, so here we are doing the injections, and it seemed probably like 3 years long, even though it was probably only a week and a half. And then it was, once the blood work showed, blood work, ultrasounds showed it was time to go to start the ganirelix, which is basically it says, okay, everything in the oven is sort of like geared up and ready, but stop. We do not want you to release the eggs yet.
Do not let the eggs go.
Don't let them out. Don't open the gates. Pause that and have them sort of waiting. So that's when I started the ganirelix, and then ultimately, whatever, it was a few days later or so, I can't remember now exactly, but
it was right around your birthday. So this is a really cool story too. So we had
it's an awful story and a cool story.
Well, it's awful and cool. A relative was married. I don't know how to go into this, but anyway, we got really good tickets to Fleetwood Mac. We won't go into how. Yeah. They were really great tickets to see Fleetwood Mac in Boston, and unfortunately, fortunately at first, they were on April 18th, which is Mart's birthday. So I was like, this is a great...
And this was we knew this was going to time out probably right before we did the egg retrieval.
Like, this is a really awesome birthday present. Like, how cool is it to go see Fleetwood Mac
on my birthday?
On your birthday, like, really great seats. Unfortunately,
that was also the week of the Boston Marathon.
Boston Marathon was that week, and
that was the week when there was the bombing at the Boston Marathon.
So it was actually
it was very.
It was horrible being in Boston with everything that happened around
that
time, and it wasn't
scary. Horrible. It was scary.
Well, there was a lot of crap going on.
So that night they had not identified the people responsible yet for the bombing.
But they decided to go ahead with the concert and to have the concert. And we were a little unsure about whether we were going to go to the concert.
Didn't go to the concert.
We went. There were like armed everybody everywhere, and we were like basically patted down to get in, and it was really like strict. And that night, this is the thing I remember. Okay, first of all, the concert was the most amazing thing ever.
Well, I think the energy of everyone also like sort of like coming together and being like,
the whole Boston
it was like, screw this. Things, we're scared. The world is scary, but we're going to come together and we're going to like be there for each other.
It was like amazing. And
we had seen Fleetwood Mac before.
Several times before. This was like amazing. And it was crazy because that night they found one of the... so that night a lot of stuff transpired, but...
It was a really bizarre week.
It was a very bizarre week leading up to your egg retrieval. Because if you were living in Boston at that time... There was so much stuff going on. People were in lockdown. They couldn't leave their houses. You couldn't go to work. You weren't
go to the grocery store.
Right, because these guys were still out there, and it was like the strangest sort of almost out-of-body experience now that I'm thinking back to it. And you'd think like, oh my god, this is so much stress, but thank goodness you listened to your Circle of Bloom, and you must have been like just like relaxing because your egg retrieval was what? So we saw the Fleetwood Mac concert on April 18th.
And then the day after was the night that I had to do my trigger shot.
Okay, so then the
Friday night.
So was it like the 21st?
Friday night I did my trigger shot. And then that's when you do basically that's the one that says, okay, open the gates. Yeah. And then it was almost 48, not quite 48, I guess 36 or whatever, 40
and our moms were coming to visit. So we had my mom coming to visit with Mart's mom. So they were there visiting that weekend.
So we had the moms.
The moms were there. And so on Sunday was your egg retrieval.
They came with us to the egg retrieval.
Came with us to the egg retrieval.
And the egg retrieval is when you have to go under a light anesthesia, which I had the major surgery in January, so it was like no big deal. And everyone was really nice. And, I mean, we could go into a lot of detail, but basically we had a great experience.
Because some people, like, I've seen some stuff lately where people get upset that maybe the doctor that they've been dealing with is not the doctor that does the egg retrieval and some of the other stuff. So the practice that we were working in is a very large practice, and our doctor was not on call every single day. So our doctor did not do the egg retrieval.
We only saw our doctor for our scheduled appointments.
In the end, yeah, our doctor didn't do the egg retrieval.
He didn't do anything.
Well,
he's counseled us.
Didn't do any doctorly stuff.
He made decisions about if I need, when I was time for me to change my dose and that kind of stuff.
So and
we never saw him in person after that.
But they had such a tight ship running with they've got everything down
like
there.
A factory.
It was a little, but they knew what they were doing, and your doctor was awesome. Very human. They were very human as far as the fact that Marta had a wife and not a husband. They were it was like a non-issue whatsoever. Never felt like that was an issue.
I think they saw it all the time, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they, and that was one of the benefits of us probably being in the Boston area in Massachusetts. So
anyway,
okay.
So
yes,
so we had a really pleasantly good experience. I remember sort of waking up groggy.
You had a lot of eggs?
No, I had 12.
No, you had more than 12.
No, 12.
12 eggs.
But wait. I was pleasantly surprised with that. I mean, because you sort of get these, estimates as they're doing the ultrasounds on your journey.
The growth thing.
Well, they tell you how many follicles they're seeing, how many...
And the size
how
of them.
How many leading follicles.
Yeah.
How many of the ones are meeting the threshold of the size that are the good ones?
So 12, I guess that's pretty good.
Basically, that was amazing news for us.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at that point, we just wanted, a shot at this. And so, this was there are some people who are either a lot younger or just have a different thing going on in their bodies.
You're 20.
And they get, 20, 30 something. It doesn't necessarily actually mean better. Because you could also have a lot of immature ones that are taken. But anyway, we got 12. They were great. Our doctor was thrilled. We were thrilled.
Yeah. And then the waiting game
starts. Then they fertilize them in the lab.
So you
go home and you recover.
You wait 3 days until you hear the first...
No. Every day we got some information. Really? So we got the fertilization report the next day.
Okay.
Monday. Great news. 11
crazy.
Out of 12 fertilized, which was a 90 whatever. And he was like, this is the most amazing thing that we could have hoped for.
Yeah, so at that point,
I was really and it was so funny because one of my really good friends was who... We were telling people we were doing this, but there were some people who sort of knew every step just because we saw them every day by default. And so they knew. And we had a little cheerleader going along of it was 90 percentile, awesome. And so that was amazing. Because you could get 30 eggs retrieved, but maybe only 5 of them fertilized. You just don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen.
We had 12 and we had 11 fertilized. And then we got, the day by day, it was decided that we would do a 5-day embryo transfer.
Yeah. Or it had eggs that were I kept saying it was the mighty kale. She ate so much kale before forever and the acupuncture and everything, but it was so in the end so we had 12 eggs and then we had 8 embryos?
No, I think we had not
because how many we have left?
We had 9.
9 embryos.
Solid embryos.
That were
So when we got so then it was a 5-day transfer. So then we knew, schedule it for Friday. So they were watching them day by day progress, and we got the news, every day. This was happening. It was sort of exciting, and then we knew Friday was going to be the day. And that's when we had our embryo transfer.
Yeah.
And I actually still remember waiting in the parking lot until it was time to go in, waiting in the waiting room, then when you had obviously changed. Now, you didn't have to go under anesthesia for this. It was basically like having an IUI. It was really cool to watch. Way cool to watch. You got to come in.
Yeah.
Because for the egg retrieval, because it was under sterile conditions.
Yeah, I didn't go for egg retrieval.
You didn't come in.
No.
But for the embryo
I got all dressed up in my
It's basically garb. The embryologist comes in and says, make sure you're the right person and they're the right embryos. and everyone is really excited
I was
and happy.
videoing that. I wish I liked, I don't know why.
And it's on the screen, the big screen in the room.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
And, you know, so you see them going like, shoop, and then...
We got a little picture of our little embryos.
She's like, did you see it? Did you see it? And I was like, I didn't see it, but you said you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it.
You saw them, like, floating into my uterus.
We have a picture of our embryos somewhere. I'll try to find the picture of our embryos and, like, post it here, but... Excuse me.
We have that picture.
So we did 2 embryos. So for the people wondering, we had decided to do 2 embryos, which is completely common for somebody that's 35 years of age. Mm-hmm. And we had, you know, you've seen our twins.
I was 36 by then.
Oh, you're 36? Yeah, that's right. You just turned 36. So we had 1 embryo that didn't make it, and then 1 embryo that... one embryo that we don't know what happened to it, and 1 embryo that split into identical twins.
Right.
I mean, that's what happened. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm not trying to, like, go forward, but so we did 2 embryos. So 2 embryos, and then how many... we had a bunch of embryos then left.
We had a bunch. We have embryos that are frozen.
We have how many frozen?
We have frozen embryos.
We have frozen embryos, which... You know, is something else that we can talk about because, you know, we're not sure, Anyway, that's another story. We're talking about our trying to conceive journey. So, we have, yes. Here we go.
Fast-forwarded a lot.
But they all know the fast-forward part. It's like not like I'm giving away part of the story. We have these identical twins that are
giving away part of the story,
the videos fast-forwarding every day. Okay, so we put in 2 embryos. 2 embryos in.
2 embryos, so 2 embryos back on the mothership, we called it.
Back on the mothership. Yeah.
And I did my Circle and Blooms program, meditation, visualizations.
Kale.
I kept eating my diet.
Acupuncture.
I kept going to acupuncture. It was really, honestly, I just remember.
Wait. It's not even a 2-week wait. It's like
No, it was 9 days.
9-day wait.
Because it's a 5-day transfer, it's a 9-day wait.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's 9 plus 5. Would bring you to the 2-week wait.
Forgot about that. Okay, yeah.
Or 8 and 5, whatever. But I think it was 9 for them. And so what's so funny is when so we did the embryo transfer. On our way out, we made the appointment for our blood test. For our 2-week blood test.
Okay.
For the HCG.
Okay.
So, and then you also make a follow-up appointment with your doctor, which is like if you're not pregnant sort of follow-up visit, which is like
sort of depressing.
Right. So on your way out,
you make that
you
appointment.
make the blood test and you make the follow-up appointment.
Here's your blood test appointment, and here's your not so great if it's bad news appointment.
Thank you. We didn't know that at the time.
Yes, I think she said.
No, we didn't.
Well,
we thought
just because you know.
I didn't know.
Anyway, all right.
So, these embryos are not going to fall out. They're up in your uterus, and they're happy as clams. They're not going to fall out. But it is something in your mind you think, even after an IUI, you're like, I don't want to jiggle around too much and mess something up.
Yeah, but what you did was you went home, and you actually did just relax and spent the rest of the day relaxing.
But just that day.
No, just that day.
No
just
one
eating.
Prescribed.
You took the rest of the day off. Like, I mean, you didn't go back to work and go about your normal schedule.
No,
you relaxed, which I was very proud of because I know that your work schedule was really busy at that time. So the fact that you took the time to do that. Yeah, no, I think that was a good idea.
That was my vacation day, and I had to relax. Yeah. And then I think we probably took it easy that weekend, but there was no prescription to stay off your feet or anything like. We basically went back to normal by Saturday, and I probably tried to be more relaxed, but it wasn't like I was on bed rest or anything. I just,
we were relaxed.
I didn't go to like aerobics class or anything like that. No. So that was, and then we actually we have a lot of pictures and things. Maybe you can show them as part of this montage of what happened. And of course, people may have already seen our video of the pregnancy test.
Yes.
We have that.
So basically that's where we wound up. Yeah. I mean, we tested. And when did we test? Did we test early? We didn't test early. You tested?
Yes, we did. So our blood test was going to be on a Sunday.
Okay.
We started on the Friday.
Okay.
So we started
but not like super early. So sometimes people
we waited 7 days.
Right. So sometimes people are testing like really right out of the gate, trying to get
each day
baseline and like the trigger, like all this stuff. But we waited this.
Well, you also have to remember that we had been through several situations already when we had positive pregnancy tests, and then subsequently 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, were crushed. So a positive pregnancy test for us at that point meant, okay, I wouldn't say it meant nothing, but that, like, for a lot of people, getting the positive pregnancy test is, like, the end-all, be-all, notify everyone on Facebook, I'm pregnant. And for us, we knew that
it was like you're cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Which is what our midwife used. Because it's like, you want to be really excited, but you have experienced, like, you know.
We've experienced loss.
Like loss, so
we knew that getting pregnant didn't mean a baby. Yeah. We knew that it was a step in the right direction, but it didn't necessarily mean that you were going to have that child. And that was heartbreaking for us in a lot of ways. So,
and I think that's what sort of made, like, even, like, getting to this point finally, it was like, you're still waiting. Because some people talk about, like, you have the 2-week wait. I just feel like we're always waiting. You're waiting to get to, you know, through the first trimester, through the second trimester, and then you get into the third trimester, and you're like, oh my god, I'm in the third trimester, and then because we had identical twins, which were sharing a placenta, it was like, we just wanted to get through each week. We were trying to, like, get further and further.
Even my acupuncturist said, like, every week was a major milestone.
Yeah, and that's how we felt. And I think that your average pregnant woman,
probably young pregnant woman who's had no fertility problems,
is not thinking of these things.
No, because, and you shouldn't.
And which is great.
It should be exciting.
There is nothing wrong with that. I think that's awesome. That's amazing. But I think that, you know, depending on your experience coming into things, you're just like, you know, you're just really.
If you've been through the infertility hell and all that goes with it, you know that every day is a miracle, and that. It's just, nothing can be taken for granted. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so we just felt really lucky and blessed because this was also just another, like, you just wanted it. I just wanted it to work. Mm. And all the things I'm going to cry. It was like all the things you do.
You're going to make me cry.
Right, all the appointments, all the blood tests, all the shots, all of the medications, and you just want it to work. Mm-hmm. And I just feel really lucky that it worked.
Me too.
Because it doesn't because it doesn't work for everyone. Some people do 4 cycles and it doesn't work. So I just feel really lucky.
Of IVF, you mean?
Yeah.
We feel very lucky.
We feel very lucky. Anyway. So,
that's the end of the video. On that note, this
now I need a drink because now I'm allowed to drink. So I need one, right, Sophie?
Thank you guys.
Sophie was there through all of this.
Sophie was here through all of it. She's been our loving companion. You can never go wrong with the Labradoodle. They're so loving. They make you smile even when you want to cry.
All right.
So
we'll leave it there for now. There's so many other things to talk about, but we'll leave it there for now.
About lots of other stuff.
And I hope everyone is doing well, and I wish you lots of baby dust on your journey.
Sticky baby dust.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Good night.